Hey guys, it's Sam. Today I wanted to talk to you about a realization that I came to this week. And it's probably one that has happened in the past, but I don't know. It just hit me a different way this week. And that is, what planner would I use if it weren't for social media and the planning community? And so I wanted to discuss that with you today. I would say that this is going to be a chatty video, but I hope that it's a helpful video because I've walked through a lot of stuff in my head. And I would say go ahead and grab something cozy to drink. I am finishing up a coffee from a local coffee shop, so I have that and then some water to get me through this video. So grab yourself something warm and cozy to drink, especially if it's raining at your house like it is mine, and we'll get into it. All right, so I have been a planner hopper since finding social media. And I think that social media has its own problems, but I'm not going to get negative about it. It's also introduced me to things that I hadn't used, heard of, seen before, and ultimately, just because of, I guess, how my life has gone, has ultimately introduced me to a system for work and for regular life that I might not have known about if it hadn't been for social media and the planner community. But I think that I'm just going to speak for myself. Sometimes I get more caught up in what my planners look like, even if I'm really trying hard not to, and how that's going to be presented on Instagram in photos or here in YouTube for you guys, and it ends up not having as much functionality as I need in my planner system as a result. And you know, social media is what it is. It doesn't mean that it has to disrupt your system like that. But I know that it's me that has allowed it to happen to mine. But just coming to the realization for kind of some of my planner pitfalls, and in the end, what planner I would use if there was no such thing as the planner community has been really helpful and eye-opening to me. And I feel like this is something that has come up many times in the past, but I'm just, I guess, looking at it with a little bit of a different lens. So if you have been around here for a while, you know that I very much usually go between two systems, and that is the Hobonichi Weeks and personal rings. And I've talked a lot before about the fact that the Hobonichi Weeks, to me, it's just kind of precious. I don't want to stop using these, but this is kind of where I want my final to go instead of the possibilities to be. And this, I use this kind of a hybrid because there is functionality to it, because on this side, I do put appointments, places that I have to be on certain days. I do log my workouts. I do have a tracker. I do have a list of things to do for the day. But other than that, this is a place to be pretty and to look back over the memories for the past year. And so because of that, as much as I know that this can work as just a regular planner, and it should, because I believe that's what it was designed for. Now that for so many years I have used this as this is the book that's going to go on the shelf and be something that I look for in a memory for the year, I always find myself pausing to write things down. If I had 7 things that I wanted to do on a particular day, I would not have a place to write that because my handwriting, I already make it smaller in this planner than is my natural handwriting. So I feel like I can't write 7 things down. If I tried really, really hard and just put little information, it could. But if I have like a long running to-do list, this is not the place that works for me. You could technically in a Hobonichi Mega because you have all of those extra back pages. But again, for me, if I'm like writing a grocery list, a task list for the day, I don't want to scrunch my handwriting to do that kind of thing. So this always makes me pause. And if I'm using it functionally, it always comes with a messy notebook to go with it so that I can write things down and scratch them out. And I was recently watching a video. I forget, is it Rachelle? I'm so sorry. I think it's Rachelle. You know who she is. And I was like really in the dumps the other day, and I was just kind of binging YouTube videos, and she was talking about like the act of just marking things out. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I do everywhere else except for my personal planner. And it's because of social media. When I have my work planner, which this is my daily Moleskine planner that I was using for a while here this year. And this has been great too. And I did a little bit of this. You can see this is a note that I highlighted. I have X's, but she had mentioned in her video that this isn't as in your face as like marking things out. And although this was very, very functional for me, and I really love this book, and this also was great kind of as a hybrid between a functional planner and like a little bit of a memory keeper and that kind of thing, because of social media. I know it's because of social media. I don't find myself like crossing most things out. I use more of a bullet journal system. Now, my exact same notebook that I use daily at work is the messiest thing I've ever had in my life. I write in my work planner my running list of things to do for the day, and I have to add vendors to a system for work, and so I'll write down the vendor number and a little snippet about what the vendor is, and as those approvals come in, I'm marking them out. So at the end of the day, it's very easy for me to see what I have done and what I have not completed, and so I'm able to move it over. And for me, I just have to have things in my face or I will forget them. And I know that now. And that has been a downfall with my Hobonichi weeks, even my passport TN. And those systems are just, they feel different to me than this system. And I think that that was kind of my light bulb moment. I was getting ready for work the other day, and this is after I had this planner system with me and this planner system with me for the day, and yet I still missed a doctor's appointment, which I don't believe that I ever have done in my life. And the whole thing with both of them is that I wasn't using them functionally enough, even though I had them both with me. I didn't want to write anything down in either of them because it's a permanent book-bound system, and I missed the appointment. If I had had my personal rings with me and I had them opened up to my messy daily pages, that would have been there. Especially for a daily page for me for personal rings, this gets really, really messy. And as much as I always talk about the fact that I don't like to have unlined, ungrid, because I can't write straight, something about this open concept of just writing anything down, not having any kind of like guardrails for where the day can go, seems very functional to me, because it's going to be a mess no matter what, because I don't write completely straight without lines. But I'm able to just like mark these things down, and that's very, very functional. And for my work planner, it's the ugliest thing you'll ever see. Everything is marked out. Everything is just like, I don't know, the whole page is just a huge mess by the end of the day. But that's what I need to know that I have completed what I needed for the day, or if something needs to migrate forward. And at work, there's like 5 or 6 tasks that I have to do every single day at work, and you would think you could just keep post-it, but that's like not how my brain works. So I write the same 5 or 6 tasks down every single day, and then anything else that happens throughout the day, and I mean, I'll write sideways, up in the margin, everywhere, and just everything. Ugly cross out everywhere. And that works so much better for me. And so when I was getting ready after missing my doctor's appointment, I was like, okay, it's time to get real. You missed a doctor's appointment. What the heck? And I just kind of had this moment where, I don't know, it just kind of hit me, and I just went, what planner would you be using if it weren't for social media? And I guess that's not completely fair, because I found personal rings through social media. And I think that if you were in a more professional setting than me, you probably would have seen rings decades before that. But for me, for 16 years, I stayed at home with my kids and I was a homemaker. So it was, scratch lists and my little pocket planner, and those things worked really functionally for me. There was never one day where I was like, oh, Is this pretty? I mean, I always have like cared about my handwriting, but still, running to-do list, shopping list, and it was just marking things off. And that's how your brain knows that you got something done. And so I wasn't doing that with my book-bound planners. As much as I love them and it's all about the memory, that's not what has been working functionally for me. They might work 100% perfectly for you, but for whatever reason, for me and my brain, even if I'm not worried about it being pretty for social media, book-bound planners tend to have a little bit of a disadvantage. And so that is ultimately why I am going to be using rings again. And I hope that this sticks for the rest of the year because I feel like I'm kind of in my busy period. It's, time for the holidays and there's all kinds of planning that goes along with that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why rings, because I know a lot of people have issues with rings because of the rings themselves. But my brain, it might work completely differently than yours. And if that's the case and you hate rings, I hope you'll stay with me because there's a reason for this. So when I write these things out, like I don't know that I was like ever overly concerned with like how this looked, even though I have like a little bit of deco. It was really about the function, getting the to-do list out of my head, and then like this was a little snippet of some symptoms that I was having because I was carnivore right here and I was having this like reaction to the sun. And so I was writing that down because I thought that it was important for my health. So if I have things like this that are going on and it's a book bound system, I might highlight this like I did here. I put the keto rash. So that's good because if I needed to flip back through here, that it would be something that I would want to remember for later. But that's, I think, where the problem is. I like knowing that I can go back in here and find this. But it's literally also just the fact that I would have to go back through here. And I know that you can do like an index or whatever in the front. But still, I feel like, okay, so if I'm at the end of the year, I'll give the example of being on hormone replacement therapy. So I'm in perimenopause, I'm on medication. I have had numerous medication changes over the course of the last year that I've been taking these medications. I've added medication to the lineup. And so if I'm going to track that like health situation, I don't want to take this whole book with me to the doctor to talk about it. So I would need to at some point go through this book, find the days that I've highlighted, write them on a piece of paper, which is fine, but it's like that extra time that I would need to take to write these things down, to take that with me. And to me, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense when I also have this health and fitness section in my planner. And I have, let me see, something that has a little less information on it. I use this tracker that has the entire year on it. It pulls out the whole year like that. And I have in one insert for my rings planner, I have a place where I can keep symptoms, medication changes, and my cycle, all those kinds of things in one insert for the entire year. So even if I don't go back to the doctor again this year, which I don't plan to, if I wanted to see her next year and say, okay, this is what I've done with medication changes, here's where we've changed things over the phone, this is where I'm landing, here are my symptoms, I feel like I can easily take 2 years of information with me and formulate a plan. And I feel like that can be true with lots of different things, not just like being on hormone replacement therapy or whatever. And then, of course, there's the just kind of daily feeling that I can make these messy to-do lists and easily get the information out of my head. I've talked about as well with something like a book-bound planner like the Hobonichi Weeks. This is just where I don't want to worry about should I write this down or should I not write this down. When I'm in a system like this, I just write it down. And then if I need to keep that information at the end of the day, like at work, I'll be listening to podcasts a lot, health stuff and that kind of thing. And I'll take notes, and then I'm able to, if I feel like it's still relevant, I can move that into my health and fitness section. And it's so good for my brain with all of those open tabs that I have. And yes, you can keep your ring inserts if you want to over the year. You don't have to just get rid of them. This particular cover is from Sojourner. I love this one a lot. So I have here all of my ring inserts that I have used for this year. And I have all of the different dailies that I've used. Look how ugly these are. Look how used up these are. These are not about what social media looks like. This is all about function. Now these are kind of, I guess, a little bit of a go-between. And that is kind of why I stopped using these, because I was starting to get more caught up in what they looked like and I wasn't messy scratching things out as much. But I do like with these that you are kind of forced to, these are my priorities for the day. And I can just come in and start crossing this off, and then it has a schedule. If I had something like this in my face, or if I had these messy daily pages open and not worried about it, I don't think that I would have missed my doctor's appointment last week, but I didn't, and I did miss it. So I'm sure I'll pay for that in more ways than one, because you know your doctors have a habit of charging you when you don't show up for an appointment. And I never miss appointments. So I feel like that was kind of my oh crap moment, where I'm just going to have to say, I need to use what is going to function for me. Now, all of these things that have a messy look to them from the day, then I can take what was important from this day and I can move that into my Hobonichi weeks, and this becomes my memory planner. And the same thing could happen for a traveler's notebook. Now, for this one, I feel like this one does get a little bit more messy, and I like that about it. But again, it's a small size and it makes me kind of pause. And then, as much as I love this, it also was a little frustrating to have to like pin things around and go back and forth. And so this was like some stuff that I had going on for the week. And then I'm moving over to dailies, and I don't mind scratching these out, and that's all fine and good. But I feel like this doesn't feel as natural to me for function as rings do. That might just be because I've used rings for so long and I don't have like that negative reaction to them like some of you have because of the rings themselves. For me, I just see this as endless possibilities, and that I can make a decision on a piece of paper and put it where it needs to be, instead of page flagging something off and saying, okay, well, where is that list in here? Or where is that list in this giant book, which I love this book and it works so well for work. But work is a different story. I am not very often needing to come back and reference something from work. I use my paper planner at work, but if it's a note that I need to carry somewhere with me, that is typed out in OneNote. I have all kinds of things that I use every day that I can copy and paste and put into an Excel file. And my work life is just very different from my life. And so this book works beautifully for that, but I don't have to go through and say, okay, where is that information? Because if it's something that I have to have on a regular basis, that goes into my OneNote to look for. So this for me, it like does the same thing as a OneNote. You know, I have my little tabs on my OneNote, so it's this is this and this is that. And if I need something, I go to that section and I know that that information is going to be there for me. And Rings does the same thing, but in a brilliant way for my physical planning, which is what I prefer. It's just easier for work to do that in that system. But this is the same thing. This is my OneNote tabs. And I know that when I jot that information down, if it stays relevant, I can put it in this section. When it's no longer relevant, I can take it out. But everything else that is relevant for that section gets to remain. This system just works for me. I have to have a monthly view. I have to have a weekly view, and I am increasingly learning that a daily view is also very important to me. And all of the other little things that go into my planning, this just works. And any of these things can change at any given moment. If I no longer find a tracking section to be relevant to me, I can take it out completely, or I can replace it with something else. And this whole thing is very flexible like that. So if I didn't have social media around and didn't care about what my planner looked like, the one that makes the most sense to me to use is rings because of how changeable it is. And my brain, I guess, is changeable. Now, that does not mean that in 2026 you still won't see me hopping around to other planners, maybe another size. And I know that I have those moments, especially in the summer. I used to always go to pocket rings. This summer was the year of the Passport TN. Do I think that that's probably still going to happen this year? Yeah. And then I'm going to whine and complain because I have things that I have to rewrite to put in my rings because I want that to stay here for things that are going to be long term that I want to know. I'm still going to use my Hobonichi weeks because to me, that is a memory, and I'm still going to use a journal or some kind of something for junk journaling or what have you. But for me, rings is it because I don't worry about what I'm writing here. I just get it out of my head and onto paper. What about you? What kind of planner would you be using at its most functional if it weren't for social media and you didn't care what anybody saw in your planner? And maybe that's more of a problem for somebody like me who shares my planner on YouTube. I would like to do better about sharing my messy pages on Instagram and, showing you the function of my planner here on YouTube. So I think for the foreseeable future, you're going to see a lot more of my ring planner. But I'd like to know what works most functionally for you. And does that make a difference to you if it's on social media or not? And which do you prefer? The finalized version of something like the Hobonichi Weeks where you put like the best parts of your day, or do you like to see the messy lived in pages more? Can't wait to hear from you in the comments below. If you've stuck with me this long, thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new around here and don't want to miss out on future content, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much as always for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye guys.